she never planned to be wealthy. The money wasn't a reward, it was a consequence. A consequence of 34 years of marriage, of packed lunches and unpaid emotional labor, of standing beside a man who worked himself into a quiet grave. When her husband died, suddenly, from a heart attack that came on a Tuesday morning like any other, the life insurance payout felt wrong in her hands. Too heavy, too final. She didn't celebrate it, she didn't invest it, she didn't spend it on herself. She saved it. Every single rupee, dollar, cent, saved with one thought repeating in her mind like a prayer. This is for our son. Her son had always been meant for more, at least that's what everyone said. Teachers, relatives, neighbors. He was clever, charming, confident in ways she never was. When he talked about business, his eyes lit up the way his father's used to when he explained engines or balance sheets. So when her son came to her one evening, sitting at the kitchen table where he once did homework, and said he wanted to start his own business, her answer was immediate. "How much do you need?" He looked surprised, almost guilty. Almost. He said the banks wanted collateral, investors wanted experience, partners wanted proof. She had all three. She funded the lease, the equipment, the branding, the legal filings, the staff's salaries for the first 6 months. She even paid for the coffee machine in the break room because he said happy employees mattered. She watched every invoice carefully, not because she didn't trust him, but because this was still her husband's last gift to the world. She wanted it used well. When her son married, things shifted quietly. Not dramatically, not obviously, just colder. His wife never raised her voice, never insulted her outright. She simply created distance with politeness, delayed replies, canceled dinners, conversations that ended quickly. Her son started saying things like, "She's tired. She didn't mean it that way. You know how sensitive she is." And the mother nodded, always nodded. She told herself love was about stepping back. Then came the launch, the grand opening of the business she had built from grief and hope. Her son talked about it for weeks, the guest list, the ribbon cutting, the press, the speeches. She bought a new outfit, nothing flashy, something dignified. She practiced smiling in the mirror, imagining standing at the back of the room, unnoticed but proud. The morning of the event, she woke early. She made tea, she checked her phone, and that's when the message came. Not a call, not a conversation, a text. "Mom, you're not invited today. My wife doesn't want you there. It's better this way." She read it once, then again. Then she sat down slowly, as if gravity had suddenly increased. She didn't cry, not at first. She replied with a single word, "Okay." Then she turned off her phone. She didn't go to the launch. She didn't watch videos. She didn't ask how it went. She folded the new outfit carefully and placed it back in the closet. That night, her son didn't call. The next day, she transferred nothing. No monthly support, no emergency buffer, no quiet financial padding. She didn't announce it. She didn't threaten. She simply stopped. Weeks passed. The calls started coming, first casual, then frequent, then desperate. She let them ring. Because dignity once reclaimed is a powerful silence. And somewhere across town in a glass-fronted office filled with unpaid invoices and nervous employees, her son was beginning to understand that businesses don't collapse loudly, they unravel quietly, just like trust. The first missed payment didn't scare him. Businesses had ups and downs, he told himself that was normal. The launch had been beautiful, professionally photographed, well-attended. His wife framed one of the photos and placed it in their living room, him smiling confidently beneath the company logo, his arm around her waist. No mother in the picture. At first, it felt like independence. He told himself he was finally standing on his own. Then the second month came. The supplier followed up. Polite at first, then firm. The marketing agency asked about their outstanding invoice. An employee casually asked if payroll would be on time. He opened his banking app more often than he slept. That was when he noticed something missing. The quiet deposits, the small, regular transfers that had always arrived just before he needed them, the ones he barely acknowledged because they felt permanent, invisible, guaranteed. He checked the date. Nothing. He told himself she must be busy. He sent a message, light, casual. "Hey, Mom, everything okay?" Seen. No reply. A week later, he tried again. "Just checking in." Nothing. The third message wasn't as calm. "Mom, can you call me? It's important." Still nothing. At home, tension crept in. His wife noticed him staring at spreadsheets late into the night. She asked questions that sounded like concern, but felt like pressure. She reminded him how much they had spent on the launch, on the apartment, on the image. "This business needs to succeed," she said, as if effort alone could will money into existence. He considered loans. The bank smiled and declined. Investors asked questions he couldn't answer without admitting the truth, that his business model relied on an invisible lifeline he had taken for granted. That lifeline had gone silent. He drove past his mother's house one afternoon without stopping. He told himself it would be awkward, that she might cry, that his wife would be upset. He kept driving. The fourth month was worse. He delayed staff payments. One employee quit quietly. Another started coming in late. Productivity slipped, and with it, reputation. Clients sensed instability. Instability scares money. He began waking up with his jaw clenched, his chest tight, his phone already in his hand before he was fully conscious. He checked messages obsessively, hoping she would reach out first. She never did. At her house, life had become smaller and steadier. She woke when she wanted. She cooked simple meals. She sold a few items she no longer needed. She didn't feel rich anymore, but she felt calm. She spent afternoons walking in the park where she once took him as a child. She remembered holding his hand, teaching him how not to run into the street, how to look both ways. She wondered when he stopped looking her way at all. When he finally showed up, it was raining. He stood on her doorstep, soaked, exhausted, older than she remembered. Not physically, but internally. She opened the door and looked at him without surprise. He tried to smile. It didn't work. "I didn't know who else to go to," he said. She stepped aside and let him in. No hug, no scolding, just space. They sat at the kitchen table where the dream began. He talked, too much, too fast, about cash flow, about stress, about misunderstandings, about his wife. He never apologized, not directly. She listened the way she always had, patiently, fully, and when he finally stopped talking, she asked a single question. "Why wasn't I welcome?" Silence filled the room, the kind that exposes everything. He looked down. "I didn't want problems," he said. She nodded. "Neither did I." He realized then that her silence wasn't punishment, it was withdrawal, and withdrawals hurt when the account is empty. He stayed for tea. Not because either of them asked, because leaving felt heavier than staying. The rain tapped softly against the windows, filling the pauses neither of them rushed to close. She moved slowly, deliberately, as if every action was a choice she was finally allowed to make for herself. She poured the tea the way she always had, no sugar, no commentary. He watched her hands and noticed how much older they looked than he remembered. Not frail, just marked by time, lines earned, not regretted. "I didn't think it would hurt you," he said eventually. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she sat across from him and folded her hands. "When you were a child," she said quietly, "I never thought you understood how much things cost. Not money, trust, presence, respect." He shifted in his chair. "I was trying to protect my marriage," he said. She nodded again, always nodding. "And who protected me?" she asked. The question wasn't angry. That made it worse. He opened his mouth, then closed it. At home that night, his wife was waiting. She asked how it went. He told her his mother was struggling. He didn't say how. He didn't say why. She frowned. "I told you this would happen," she said. "She wants control." The word landed wrong. Control. He thought of the quiet deposits, the emergency coverage, the never-asked-for recognition. If that was control, it was the gentlest kind he had ever known. Days passed. The business worsened. A major client pulled out. Another demanded revised terms. The accountant stopped sugarcoating the numbers. They were sinking. At home, arguments became sharper, shorter, more honest. His wife accused him of being weak, of letting his mother manipulate him emotionally. He didn't respond, because somewhere inside him, something had shifted. He returned to his mother's house again, unannounced. She was in the garden. She looked up, surprised this time. "I need to say something," he said. She waited. "I'm sorry," he said. The word sounded unfamiliar in his mouth, almost fragile. For the text, for the launch, for choosing comfort over courage. Her eyes softened, but she didn't reach for him. "I forgive you, but forgiveness doesn't restore what was broken." He felt the weight of that truth settle into his bones. He asked carefully, "Can you help me?" She looked at him for a long time. Then she shook her head. "I already did." He didn't argue, because he knew she was right. The business closed 3 months later, quietly. No announcements, no posts, just a locked door and a sign that said, "Temporarily closed," long after everyone knew it was permanent. His marriage followed not long after, not because of his mother, but because pressure reveals what patience hides. He moved into a smaller apartment, took a job he once would have dismissed, learned how to budget, how to live without safety nets. He called his mother every Sunday. Sometimes she answered, sometimes she didn't. But when she did, the conversations were different, not transactional, not dependent, just human. Years later, when people asked her if she regretted pulling away, she would smile softly and say nothing. Because some lessons cost more than money, and some mothers love enough to let go. Time didn't heal things the way people said it would. It didn't erase the hurt. It didn't soften the memory of that message. What time did instead was expose the truth layer by layer, like dust settling after a collapse. What remained was what had always been there: character, choices, and consequences. The mother adjusted to her quieter life with a grace that surprised even her. She sold the house, not out of necessity, but intention. Too many echoes lived in those rooms. Too many moments where she had waited by the phone, convincing herself that patience was love. She moved into a modest apartment near the park, the kind of place no one visited unless invited. She volunteered twice a week at a local literacy center. Children with wide eyes and hesitant voices reminded her that guidance didn't require ownership, that support didn't mean sacrifice without limits. She learned something she'd never been taught, that love could exist without depletion. Her son struggled in ways he never spoke about. He woke early for a job that paid less than his pride once demanded. He sat in traffic with people who didn't know his past ambitions, and for the first time, he wasn't special. At first, that terrified him. Then it grounded him. He learned how exhausting self-made really was when no one quietly caught you as you fell. He learned how many mistakes he had once avoided simply because someone else absorbed the impact. Some nights he replayed the launch in his mind, the applause, the cameras, the absence. He noticed now how empty that success had been. No one teaches you how to measure what isn't there. His wife reached out once, a polite message, neutral, safe. His mother read it and didn't respond, not out of bitterness, out of clarity. Some doors close not because of anger, but because reopening them would require pretending nothing happened. On a quiet Sunday afternoon, nearly 2 years after the business failed, he sat across from his mother again. This time, he didn't talk much. He listened. She told him about the children she taught to read, about the woman next door who brought soup when she was sick, about how peaceful life felt when expectations were gone. He realized then that she wasn't waiting for him to return to who he used to be. She had already moved forward, and that hurt more than anger ever could. "I used to think you needed me," he said quietly. She smiled. "I used to think you appreciated me," she replied. Neither accusation, both truths. When he left that day, he hugged her, carefully, respectfully, like someone who knew proximity was a privilege, not a right. He never asked for money again, not because he didn't need it, because he finally understood the cost. Years later, when people spoke of the failed business, they framed it as bad timing, bad partners, bad luck. He never corrected them, because the real reason couldn't be explained in numbers. It was explained in silence, in a text message sent too easily, in a chair left empty at a celebration, in a mother who chose dignity over desperation, and in a son who learned far too late that the strongest support systems don't announce themselves. They simply disappear when taken for granted.